It's almost go time, people. So people in the room, if you could find a seat, that would be great. Okay, we'll be getting started in about 2 minutes. It's so much fun to be in a room with people again. Yay, people in the front seat, yay. Oh yeah, it's gonna be fun. All right, we ready, boss? Okay, so those of you who are in the back, we have a few seats in the front. Feel free to come in at any time. And I'd like to welcome everybody who's in the room here at the Brewer Hub and all of those who are watching on our YouTube channel to our 5th RZRblock Hackathon. Yay! Absolutely. So our hackathon is sponsored by the Blockchain Center of Excellence at the Sam M. Walton College of Business, coming to you from the University of Arkansas. I know many of you, but for those of you I don't know, I'm Mary Lassity. I'm the director of the Blockchain Center of Excellence, and I'm a professor in the Information Systems Department. And I got the controls. Okay, so our program tonight, I have a few welcoming remarks, and then we have such an inspiring keynote speaker to kick off for tonight in Brian Dixon. Then we're going to have Catherine Carlisle explain some of the rules of the hackathon to you. And then we have our sponsors pitching 13 use cases. And they're so inspiring this year. So I'm really excited for you to have opportunities to work on these use cases. Yeah, come on in, fill in the front row. We have some seats back here as well. Okay, then after our use cases, we'll take a short break, and then you can form your teams, and we'll open up the team registration. And Catherine will be hanging out if you have any questions after the event, okay? All right, for the few people who don't know what the Blockchain Center of Excellence is, we were founded in 2018. We received our seed funding from Governor Asa Hutchinson, the governor of this great state of Arkansas. And our mission really is to make the Sam M. Walton College of Business a leader in both education and research on what we like to call blockchain-enabled digital ecosystems. I love this little picture here. This is actually some of our winning hackathon teams from the last time we were face-to-face. And in a month, I'll get to update this slide with who's ever in this room or online who becomes the winners of this year's hackathon. So at the Blockchain Center of Excellence, we're using this term blockchain, but really it's a vision for moving the internet from where it is today to what's known as Web 3.0. So all the technologies that you're learning about in class, so look on the left-hand side here, we know that blockchains enable decentralization. We know that we have cryptography to help with cybersecurity. You know that we use smart contracts where we can automate payments and other types of transactions. We tokenize assets, and we use that to help incentivize communities as well. And we also have an immutable distributed ledger. So that's all the inputs to Web 3.0. But really what we're trying to do is make the world a better place online. So we want to have a decentralized internet where we can exchange value peer-to-peer without trusted third parties, where all of us in the room and online have more control over our own data, and where we'll be able to monetize our own data. Aren't you tired of giving big tech all of your money for watching all those ads? Right? So there's a lot of opportunities in Web 3.0 where we want to make the internet more inclusive, more private, more transparent, in short, to reestablish trust online. I work for the world's greatest university, and I have such an awesome team. So you will meet Catherine Carlisle. She's over here already moving chairs. She is our senior managing director for the center. She's also the program manager for the hackathon. She's done a fantastic job. So everything that goes well today is because of Catherine, and everything that goes wrong is probably either my fault or Dr. Conway's fault, right, Dan? So also we have our associate director, Professor Dan Conway, in the house. Many of his students are here today. We also have two great graduate assistants. They're in the back over here, and I want to thank Nato and Sri Vidya for all the help that you've given us this year, not only with the hackathon, but with our website and newsletter and our conference. We love having you on the team. We have some additional faculty. So Catherine, Dan, and I teach blockchain in the curriculum, but we also have Professor Zach Steelman in the house, and his students are here. And we have instructor Ian White, and I know some of you had the pleasure of his class in the fall. So all of us here at the Walton College love teaching, and we're so excited to be able to offer this innovative curriculum here at the university. Everything we do at the Blockchain Center of Excellence is enabled by our 12 executive advisory board member firms. So we'll be announcing nice cash prizes for our hackathon winners, and that comes with the financial support from these companies. So we owe them a debt of thanks. And in addition, we raised some cash and prizes to put into the pool for the hackathon winners. So I'd like to thank Veritex, GoKey, Kanza Finance, and Simba Chain for sponsoring this event. Okay, I hope some of you had an opportunity to attend our pre-hackathon launch workshops. They were fantastic. So we had all kinds of lessons on NFTs and Simba Chain and Ethereum and stellar development. And if you didn't have an opportunity to watch these tech workshops because you were working or in class, they are on our YouTube channel and also on our Discord channel. I attended them along with the students because I'm still learning too, and the content was absolutely world-class and fantastic. So I'd like to again thank our workshop sponsors. Okay, who's going to be judging this year? We have some great judges from both industry and academia, including the Dean of the Walton College, Matt Waller, will be one of our judges this year. We also want to thank, and I know many of the mentors are watching online, we want to dearly thank all of the mentors who are going to help the hackathon teams. So these are mentors from all walks of life. So some of them are going to be the subject matter experts on your case studies. For example, 2 of the case studies have things to do with NFTs and artists, so we have some professional artists as mentors. We also have many mentors who are technical experts. So if you need help technically, you can access our mentors. So you can find our mentors on our Discord channel and under Meet Mentors sub-channel. You can go see their bios, you can schedule meetings with them. So thank you again to all of our mentors. We have 13 use cases tonight, and we will hear about those after we have our keynote speech. But again, I think you're going to find that this year we are really have use cases that are uplifting humanity, getting us to that Web 3.0, more inclusivity, more user control. I think you're going to love our use cases this year. Okay, now I'm so excited to launch our hackathon event with somebody who will inspire you along your hackathon journey. So we have Brian Dixon in the house. Brian is COO and a partner at Off the Chain Capital. This is the #1 performing investment company in this space. So we're going to learn a lot from Brian. A little bit about him personally. He's got a lot of years of expertise in this space, And as a professor, one of the things on his CV that really impressed me is Brian has published 3 books already. So go find his books. He's published a book on Bitcoin, on blockchains, and other advanced technologies. He's also writing a book that seems to be a little on the softer side of skills about meditation and consciousness and fitness and diet. So if we have time, Brian, we'll be able to share a little bit about that. So there you are, Brian. I can see you. Welcome to the stage. Okay, hang on. Oh, I'm out too. Testing. One of the greatest things about hiring professionals is I don't have to sweat this out because I know they're going to fix it. So thank you. Brian, can you hear me yet? You can hear me. We can't hear you, but we're getting you.
Okay, sounds good.
Oh, there you are. Thank you so much. Welcome. Welcome, Brian.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here this evening.
So Brian, can you start off by telling us how you got in this space?
Sure. So, yeah, absolutely. So I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri, and I was actually in my last year of law school at Washington University in St. Louis. And I was reading an article while I was in Wills, Trust, and Estates class. And it was an article about a pharmaceutical drug that was being provided to F-15 fighter pilots. And it was allowing them to fly for 20-hour missions without having any food or drink. And I was reading the article, and then funny enough, in the bottom, in the comments section, somebody was like, where do I buy this at? It sounds like the Limitless pill, and people are just like cracking jokes in the article. And somebody in the article goes, you have to send Bitcoin to the pharmaceutical manufacturer in Mumbai, India. And then the next comment said, what's Bitcoin? And the person said, read this. And they posted the Bitcoin white paper, the original white paper that was written by Satoshi Nakamoto, who is the creator of Bitcoin. And I clicked the link and I was reading about it. And then I ended up reading it that evening, and I read it a ton more times over the next couple of weeks. And then I started going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. And this was in 2012. And I spent about 3 months doing this before I had my light bulb moment where I thought, if Bitcoin ends up working, it's going to change a lot of things around the world. And this was before there was any other digital asset. Bitcoin was the only one in existence at the time. So that's kind of my entry point. That's how I just learned about it by luck at the time that I did. I've been in the cryptocurrency space now for 10 years. And when I finished up law school, I decided instead of going to practice law, I was so fascinated by Bitcoin and technology that I really wanted to change my career path. And so I ended up going all in on cryptocurrency, technology, and investments. And I built a company in St. Louis, Missouri called Capital Innovators, where I helped raise 3 private venture funds focused on tech and consumer product startup companies that I invested in. And then I also raised a corporate venture fund for the Fortune 500 company Ameren. It's an energy business. And we manage their early stage venture program, investing in early stage energy technologies. And so I built that company for 7 years. Throughout my time there, I funded about 140 startups, launched multiple energy related programs. I launched a program with the federal government where I helped them find geospatial intelligence through satellite imagery. So different startups that were working in that space to help advance everything that the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, the NGA, uses for satellite imagery. And I was also doing a lot in the cryptocurrency space throughout that whole 7 years that I built that company. So I was investing in cryptocurrency. I was developing a lot of relationships in the space. I was traveling around the world teaching people about crypto. And I eventually actually started a blockchain consulting company as well, where I travel and spoke at about 70 conferences around the world. So Russia and Moscow and Paris and Hong Kong and all sorts of different great places that I got to visit to teach people about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And then I also had a development team. If anybody wanted to build their own blockchain products, I could provide them with this development team resource so they could help, engineer in their systems that they wanted to design. And about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I met my current business partner today, who's our chief investment officer at Off the Chain, because we made a venture investment in the same blockchain company. And we developed a very close relationship because there wasn't many people that had been involved in cryptocurrency as long as we had when we met in the St. Louis area where we were from. And so we became fast friends. He's in his mid 50s. He's a traditional asset manager. He's been making investments and managing money for about 30 years. And he had his own registered investment advisor practice. But then in 2013, when he learned about Bitcoin, he became so captivated with it that he sold his investment practice to Wells Fargo and also went all in on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency companies. And so whenever Off the Chain was actually created about 5 years ago, we were friends. We were very involved in the cryptocurrency ecosystem together, had developed a lot of great relationships in the space. Eventually, it started as a family office where it was my business partners, capital, and some close friends and family that came in and invested in the space. And then in 2019, we institutionalized Off the Chain Capital, and we opened the fund to outside investors. And so that's when we went on a fundraising campaign, began to bring in capital, and start investing in the Off the Chain strategy. So that's a backstory on myself. I like you mentioned, I've authored 3 books around Bitcoin and blockchain technology, and then a 4th book that I wrote with my wife, where we dive pretty deep into what we've always been very fascinated with some of these more esoteric topics around human consciousness and meditation and diet and things of that nature.
Brian, thank you so much. So can you tell the audience a little bit about Off the Chain? I mean, you're like the #1 performing company in this space. And how do you go about looking at your investments and maybe share a few stories of some of the companies you've invested in?
Yeah, absolutely. So what Off the Chain does that's so funny when we tell people about this is we're not doing anything crazy or elaborate in the cryptocurrency space. We have a very traditional investment strategy where we do what Warren Buffett does. It's a traditional Graham Dodd, Warren Buffett style of deep discount value investing, but we apply it to blockchain assets. So to put it simply, what we do is we're trying to find a way to buy $1 worth of assets for 50 cents. And we do that through investing in premier private blockchain businesses. And we also do it through finding unique niche ways through our network where we can buy cryptocurrency at a discount from what most people would be able to get access to it at. And so, we're not a venture style fund. So we're not investing in the early stage startups and technologies. If we're investing in a private company, we have a couple very strict guidelines that we look for. They have to be after their Series A investment round, because that will de-risk the risky venture stage of the business. They have to have minimum or no debt on the company. They have to be profitable. They have to have positive free cash flow. And the company needs to be on a 1 to 3 year pathway to liquidity, meaning that when we make our investment, we want to hold it for 1 to 3 years before that company goes public or gets acquired, and then we want to generate our return. And so if the private business doesn't meet those 4 metrics, we will not consider them for diligence to invest in the business. And what that does is it de-risks all the early stage technologies and allows us to focus on the very mature, what we would consider premier blue chip blockchain companies in the market. And so that's what we've gained exposure to today. That makes up 50% of the portfolio. The other 50% of our fund is in undervalued cryptocurrency assets or in unique ways that we find cryptocurrency at a discount. And so a great example of that is we became probably the 1 or 2 world's largest purchaser of what are called Mt. Gox bankruptcy claims. So Mt. Gox was the biggest Bitcoin custodian in the world back in 2014. And the exchange was hacked. And the hackers stole 850,000 Bitcoin off the exchange. Well, the company, which was based in Japan, ended up going under, but they set up a bankruptcy estate and they were actually able to recover 141,000 of the stolen Bitcoin. So anybody that was a customer to the exchange that held Bitcoin on it at the time of the hack became a bankruptcy claim holder, and they were now due back a percentage of that recovered Bitcoin. So what we did is we developed a relationship with the Japanese bankruptcy estate, and we identified who the claim holders were, the bankruptcy claim holders that were basically had this contractual agreement to get paid out some of that recovered Bitcoin. And so we knew exactly how much Bitcoin was inside each of these claims. And so what we did is we started calling the claim holders, writing them letters, sending them emails, doing everything we could to get in touch with them, offering them liquidity for their claim, because the bankruptcy proceeding can take many years. And some of these people wanted cash today. So what this allowed us to do is go buy all these bankruptcy claims from individuals And we built a large position in Bitcoin at an 80% discount on average from what you could buy Bitcoin off of an exchange. And so this bankruptcy proceeding has now completed. All the lawsuits have been settled surrounding it. And the bankruptcy was certified towards the end of last year by a vote of all the claim holders. And those assets will be paid out this year, sometime in 2022. So we will actually receive the Bitcoin directly to us when these assets get distributed. And we were able to buy this at about an 80% discount. And so that's a unique way that we've been able to capture Bitcoin as a discount through bankruptcy proceedings and forced or motivated sellers. And then on the private company side, what kind of this unique strategy that we've developed, and this is all through our relationships for being in this space now for 10 years, we'll go to these very mature businesses that we consider to be the best blockchain companies in the space. And we will go to their employees and their seed investors, and we'll provide a liquidity pool for them to sell their shares into. So as an example, some of these businesses have grown very large very quickly. And these employees that have been around since the early days, they're worth millions and millions of dollars on paper, but they may not have a market to sell the shares into for their company to get that liquidation of their shares. So what we do is we go to those employees and seed investors and provide that liquidity pool, but we buy their shares from them at a discount. And so usually these are motivated individuals. They're having a child, they're getting married, they're buying a home, whatever the life event is or situation that they're going through, they're motivated to sell their shares and get cash for them. So that allows us to negotiate really good deals for our fund to basically invest and get these private companies at a discount. And a really great example is a business that we carry in the portfolio called Kraken. Kraken is the second largest cryptocurrency exchange in the United States. And we were able to capture shares in the company at a significant discount from what the business was valued at to us at the time. And we were able to figure out a pretty good valuation of where we thought the business was because Coinbase was going public. And we knew around the price that Coinbase, the largest crypto exchange in the US, was going to go public for. And so then we placed a value on what we thought Kraken was, the second largest crypto exchange. And we were basically finding employees that were selling us shares in Kraken at an 80 to 90% discount to where we thought the company was fairly valued. And so that was a huge value for us, right? That was a discount buy opportunity that aligned with our strategy. And so this is what we're doing. We're trying to access these unique opportunities through our network where we're buying these shares at a discount or we're buying cryptocurrency at a discount. And we're looking to hold it usually for 1 to 3 year timelines before we reach these liquidation events to generate returns for our investors. And then we'll take that capital and recycle it into new investment opportunities. And we've been very fortunate with this strategy because over the last 5 years, in the hedge fund ranking index, the HFRI, which is one of the largest databases in the world for investment firms that submit data, and that includes hedge funds, real estate funds, cryptocurrency funds. There's just under 6,000 funds that submit data to this particular premier index. Over the last 5 year period, Off the Chain's been the #1 performing investment fund of all the funds, like the real estate funds, the cryptocurrency funds, all different strategies. We've outperformed everybody over the last 5 years. And the way we've been able to do it is through this deep discount strategy. And so when you stack up our performance versus people that are doing the early stage investing in the cryptocurrency protocols or companies, or they're doing algorithmic trading or NFT funds or all these unique things that are happening, our very basic tried and true strategy actually has been fortunate to outperform all of them. And it's very plain vanilla. Like, we're not doing anything complicated. We're not doing these unique arbitrage opportunities or things that would require a lot of sophistication with computers trading cryptocurrencies. It's very basic. The value style investment strategy has been around for a very long time. But I will say one of the unique things about what we do is that traditionally with a value investment strategy, you're trying to buy $1 worth of assets for 50 cents. And then your profit margin's built in automatically at the point of the transaction. Because if I can buy $1 worth of assets for 50 cents, I just made another 50 cents in profit right at the time that I did the investment. Where we fit in that, if we do the same mindset, except because cryptocurrency and blockchain markets are growing faster than the internet was growing in the late 90s and early 2000s, there's exponential growth that we're seeing. And so when we buy $1 worth of assets, we're oftentimes seeing our dollar grow to $6 to $7 as opposed to staying at $1. So it's basically this hybrid, unique situation where we have the value style strategy, but there's also short-term like venture and high exponential growth and appreciation on the assets that we get exposure to for the fund. So that's kind of an overview of the strategy and what we do with off the chain.
That's awesome. And all these students in here, they have already learned about Mt. Gox. They certainly know Kraken. We're teaching them that Kraken is also the first speedy bank to get chartered in the state of Wyoming. So congratulations on being able to spot all of these winners. So Brian, let's go back a little bit to your years as funding startups. How many in here are aspiring entrepreneurs? Okay. I don't know if you can see hands go up, Brian, but a lot of hands go up.
I can, yeah.
Yeah. What advice do you offer our students?
Sure. So if you want to start a company and you have a goal of building something, the best piece of advice that I can give is that you never want to do it for the money. Because if that's your ambition or goal when you start it, you'll give up. You want to go after something that's so important to you that you don't care if you don't make a lot of money off doing it. Like it's a problem that you want to solve that's so important. And the reason that's such an important thing to have internally with your ambition as you go to start a company is because building a business is going to be one of the most challenging things you will ever do in life. It's incredibly rewarding at the same time, but it is so much work. And there's this funny entrepreneur joke where it's like, you know, I gave up working 40 hours a week at the corporation, so now I can work 100 hours a week. Because when you become an entrepreneur and start a business, there's really no way around having to put in a tremendous amount of energy and effort in the early stages of the company to get it off the ground. I mean, I've experienced that firsthand when I built the company in St. Louis, and now I've moved to Miami and I'm building off the chain with my team here. And it's a very demanding thing to do to be an entrepreneur and to scale a company. But it also has so many great benefits if you can go after something that you're super passionate about. So the best thing that I can advise is that make sure whatever you select is something that you're not doing just because you want to generate a financial return. Do it because it's very important to you. And like for me, cryptocurrency today is the most important thing that's happening in the world, whether people understand it or not yet, because in my opinion, Bitcoin is replacing our entire financial system. And it is becoming the new monetary layer for which all financial transactions will happen in the future. We'll be using Bitcoin as our checking account, or excuse me, as our savings account, and then we'll have a transactional layer on top. And we're starting to see people opt out of fiat currency into Bitcoin. And I know there's thousands of other cryptocurrencies, and there's some ones with really unique utility, and I'm not discounting that. But Bitcoin to me is the most important movement of anything that's happening in the world because it is rebuilding our entire financial structure. And so to me, that's what I've been so passionate about for 10 years. And that's why I get up every single day and continue to build this company and make sure I give people exposure to blockchain and crypto. And we do a ton around education and we teach our investors and our partners constantly about this space. And so as you build your company and whatever it is that you're interested and passionate about, never ever do it because you think you're going to make a lot of money in it. Just do it because you may not. You may try to start a company and it may not work out, and that's okay because you're going to learn a lot from it. But don't give up. Start something else if you can and continue to have that vision. But at the end of the day, it's really about having the persistence, because there'll be some long time periods where nothing will happen. And I mean very long. Like there's time periods sometimes where you may go 2 years building your business and you feel like you're getting no traction and you can't give up. And the biggest thing that I learned is that when you're building things, a lot of times it always feels like the point where you're like, gosh, I just feel like giving up right now, because you've gone through so many, trials and tribulations with your business. And then it's just beyond that. It's when you get that feeling and you're like, oh man, this is so hard, I just want to call it quits sometimes. If you can strive just beyond that, that's when things happen. And it's really weird how that works out. But there's like this law of the universe about persistence and resilience or something that we just can't see. And if you continue going after it and you have it, usually you'll turn the table and you'll be able to get over it. So that's the best piece of advice. And also when you're in the early stages, don't think you have to have all this fancy software and and things like that to get the business off the ground. You can start a business for like under $1,000 today with the tools that we have out there for free. Go as long as you possibly can on a shoestring budget, and don't think you have to go raise a bunch of venture capital to get your idea off the ground. Because if it's software based, you usually don't. I mean, if it's hardware based and you have a consumer product, that may be the case. But most things that are built software enabled today, it's completely unnecessary to raise a lot of early stage capital. Because don't forget, as soon as you start raising capital from outside investors, your responsibilities in the company change. It is no longer your baby. It's a partnership with other individuals. And you have a responsibility to generate a return for them if that's the goal of them making an investment. So, in summary, do it because you're ambitious and passionate about what you're trying to do, and go as long as you can on a shoestring budget, because that's when you will learn the most about your business. And always spend a lot of time talking to your customers. Don't be afraid to get feedback from your customers, because that's what drives the revenue for your business. And if you don't intimately understand what your customer wants, your business will never be successful. You don't want to build a cool product and hope people buy it. You want to find a customer problem and develop a solution. And out of all the companies I funded, the 140 businesses that I funded, the businesses that succeeded understood that. The businesses that built technology because they liked it and didn't listen to the customer feedback enough failed. So those are just some data points to consider for the people that want to be entrepreneurs out there.
Brian, thank you. I love your advice. And just so you know, we're in the Brewer Family Innovation Hub here today. And I'm just going to read a quote that kind of solidifies what you just said. The greatest glory in living lies not in never failing, but in rising every time we fall. Nelson Mandela. So, Brian, thank you so much for being our kickoff inspiration for our hackathon. And for our in-person audience, can we please show our appreciation for Brian? It's awesome.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I hope the hackathon goes well.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay, up next, I'm going to call Catherine Carlisle to the stage.
Hello, everybody. I am just here to give you a little bit of guidelines, instructions about how this whole competition works. What's important to know, what may be some questions that we hear a lot that I can just go ahead and lay out for you guys and let you know more about the competition itself. So if you're here, you've already made it to one of the important dates. Welcome to the kickoff on March 4th. We're going to have a month until April 1st when we come back together for an in-person pitch event. So this is very much a hybrid. It's going to be at least 4 weeks of online mentoring through Discord. So if you have not joined the Discord channel yet, we can get you on there. And that's where, as Mary mentioned, you can find teammates. If you don't already have teammates, you can view our mentors and their bios and figure out, who may be a good fit. We have a very diverse range of mentors with different skill sets. So at one point, if you're kind of building the business model, you may want to go find somebody who has a lot of entrepreneurship background or mentoring. And then when you get to more of a technical part where you may want to build a demo, you may find somebody with that background. And so that's going to be the important part of really figuring out who's there to help you. We encourage doing weekly check-ins with a mentor at least once a week. Reach out to them on Discord and say, here's where we are. And they're going to be able to give you some amazing advice. And as Brian even said, building those network connections over the next 4 weeks. That's what this is all about, is getting you guys exposed to real world business problems, not just the theory of the classroom. We want you to know how people are thinking about blockchain and crypto products, how they're building those strategies, how they're building those companies, and then what that target audience is like. What problems does this actually solve in the real world? So that's our goal. And in addition to our goal, we're going to have some incentives. We're going to have some cash prizes and additional in-kind prizes for teams at the end that we'll announce on April 1st after we go through judging. And so what you may be wanting to know tonight, we'll have some use case pitches from these organizations. Some of them are locally here in Northwest Arkansas. Some of them are global organizations. So we'll have time for all of them to come pitch for about 5 minutes and tell you a little bit about who they are, what type of problems that they may be facing in their industry, and different maybe criteria that blockchain solutions could add or are required to solve that problem for them. You have some sheets around, share them if you can, but they explain some of the use cases. We'll also post them online in the Discord, and so you can read about them as they're being presented. And after that, we'll be able to have a break, flex time. I'll be up here to answer any more questions that you may have for the remaining time, but it's really for you to be able to, one, find other teammates if you need to, ask the use case presenters questions about these use cases, and then also a time to fill out the team registration form. So that's going to be available tonight at 7 p.m. We're pressing the button, we're opening the form. You can find it on our website. If you go to blockchain.uark.edu and go to events, there's a hackathon tab there, and we have a team registration button. We'll also have it posted on the Discord channel, and there's also a QR code available for the team registration instructions that you can just hold your phone up to, open on your browser, and that'll take you right to it. So that form is gonna ask you for a team name, and we want you to have a lot of fun with this. Get creative. If you want to change it later, that's okay. But it's just for us to identify you as a group. And then you're going to have member contacts. So please include, you're going to have a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 5 people on your team to compete for prizes. And you'll include their names and emails. And then you'll also include whether or not you're on a student track or on the open track. And we have some more information for this listed on the instructions, but that essentially means if you're a U of A enrolled student, we're going to try to group you on that student track. If you're somebody that's participating remotely or on a mixed team of U of A and outside participants, or if you're a student at another university, or if you're an industry professional that has a team competing, you're going to be on our open remote track. And both of these tracks will be judged separately, awarded separately. We'll have first, second, and third place prizes available for both of those. But that's what you'll indicate on that form. And then on the second part of the form, you're going to get a first, second, and third choice for your use case that you hear tonight. And so we hope that you can, select those, and we will email you a confirmation. They're going to be first come, first serve. So that's really important that you make sure that your team's all together and ready to select those cases as soon as you're able, because it's just going to improve your probability of getting the choice that you want. But we do have several spots available for each use case. So we'll allow 2 student teams per use case and 1 open team. So just start trying to make sure you're listening, get familiar, get a good idea of what you want to do and what you want to work on with your team members. Let's see. You do not have to build a coded final product. You don't have to know how to code. You can just be in this competition to learn more about blockchains, and that's totally okay. Usually, we'll see a mix of people who really just focus on the model at the final pitch presentations and people who may actually build out a full, live pilot product. And so it'll just depend on you and your team and your focus and your makeup and what your problem is. So let's see. I'm not sure if there's anything else I'm leaving out that you need to know now, but we will stay in touch with you and make sure you feel like you have all the information you need to succeed in this. And if you have any questions, our team is on Discord. I'm Catherine Carlisle. We have Dan Conway and Mary Lassie and our graduate assistants, Nato and Shravidia, that are always open for questions, or you can email blockchain@uark.edu. So first up tonight in our use case pitches, we have Colonel James Regener, and we can pull him up on our Zoom. Hello, Colonel Regener. He's one of our major sponsors for tonight, and he is the founder of Veritex. Can you hear us?
Catherine, I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I will let you take it away. You guys enjoy the pitches and have a great night.
Appreciate it. Hello, potential hackathon team members. I'm Colonel James Regener. I'm the CEO of a company called Veritex, and we're building blockchain solutions in the aerospace industry and digital supply chain solutions for the Department of Defense. So we're currently a prime on a large Department of Defense contract to create digital supply chain. I'm also the CEO of a company called Salacia, which is a tech for good. We're using that. We're using NFTs in order to restore the health and vitality of our oceans. So tonight's use case is going to be around Veritex. Before we get started, I'm just going to mention something. One of our teammates tonight is in Ukraine. We have members there tonight that are actually fighting to survive. So as we enter into this hackathon, I'll ask you to keep in mind, there are real world events going on tonight that will impact all of us. So in the theme of sustainability in aircraft, one of the things that we'd like to do is to find ways to use parts better. In other words, figure out a way to use what's called rotable pools for spare parts. Oftentimes the airlines or the military will get together customers and they'll share parts. So those parts will come in for manufacturing, repair, and overhaul. They'll go into a pool, and then as spares are needed, they'll bring the parts out. Rotable pools aren't utilized nearly enough because there's a lack of trust, there's a lack of provenance of the parts, and so on. So an aircraft part without provenance quickly becomes a paperweight. So if you allow me, I'll flip through some slides real quick, and we'll get on with this use case. Maybe I'll flip through there. Use that button. This was a great quote, and it kind of helped frame up kind of this use case. But if it can't be reduced, reused, rebuilt, repaired, rebuilt, refurbished, refinished, recycled, composted, then it should be restricted or designed for production. So think in those terms, as we start thinking about resources and becoming better stewards of resources instead of just consume, consume, consume. In other words, figure out how to preserve, how to conserve resources. Rotable pools comes into play, whether it's in aerospace, whether it's in automotive, or any type of industrial solution. There are ways to reuse things over, to reuse cores or to reuse piece parts as we build back to new. So the problem is industrial verticals would benefit from the use of more rotable pools for spare parts. However, as I mentioned, there's a lack of trust, and that keeps their utilization down. Blockchain, I think, is a really good tool for restoring that trust and taking the trust outside the four walls of the factory to that rotable pool. So the challenge for you is going to be able to create a sustainable trust model for rotable pools of spare parts in highly regulated industries where there's a high consequence of failure. So think of aerospace or transportation for automotive and so on, and a high potential for litigation. So the challenge for the business is leverage technologies available today and the attributes of blockchain. Explore the tools and look at using blockchain to create more rotable pools in industrial applications like aerospace. Consider a company's ability to influence their supply chain to improve their reuse of spare parts. Some of the design features we're looking for a consensus mechanism that should be as close as possible to net zero energy consumption. It would be one thing for us to talk about sustainment and then actually not use sustaining technologies or near net zero or carbon negative production in order to achieve that. It wouldn't be the right tenor to set. The solution should be based on a public permissionless blockchain, and incentives should be given for the use of rotables. So look at the specific use case in a market vertical. The use case is currently focused on your aerospace supply chains, but I'm asking, don't limit yourself to aerospace. If you'd rather do automotive or something else that makes sense, by all means do that. We're just going to use this for the setup. Where we see the business value, there's been quite a bit of push lately in ESG scoring. If you're not familiar with that, go ahead and take a look. But companies are reporting ESG scoring along with their 10Ks, and the SEC is actually auditing ESG plans and scoring because investors are making investment decisions based on those scores. So it would be very helpful for you to kind of incorporate that thematic into the solution. And I think at some point, governments will flow down ESG scoring as part of their contracts, whether it's the Defense Federal Acquisition Regulations or other government type awards. What does a rotable pool look like today? I provided you just a little bit of background on aerospace rotable pools. There's a couple slides that will be available to you in this packet. This packet will be available on Discord. Catherine will publish it along with a one-pager that describes the use case. And again, how current parts are currently managed, how spare parts are currently managed. This is, again, just a model that'll help you frame up the problem. And I'm going to take myself off stop sharing. So we really think there's tremendous value in creating rotable pools for aerospace or other industrial applications. Again, they're used today, but they're not used. Their use is not as widespread as they potentially could. I would ask that you take a look at this team and take a look at where the impact is for creating sustainment opportunities within industrial applications by unmooring blockchain from cryptocurrency use and applying it to sustainment, trust, and provenance within industrial applications. I'll pause there for any questions. And again, I look forward to working with the team. I will be a mentor to the teams as they move forward. And this is I think I've been participating since this started. So I'm really excited about it, and I appreciate everybody's attention and the opportunity. Thank you.
Awesome, Jim. Thank you. And we have time, and especially since you're virtual, we'd probably love to take a few questions from the crowd, if there are any, just to take advantage of our time with you. We have a couple minutes. Are there any? Yes. Mike, I'm not sure if we have an extra microphone. We'll get you one. Just 1 second.
Yeah, my name's Chance Farrell. I'm a graduate student. My question's around, first, thanks for doing this. This is great, and it's a great use case. You mentioned you'd prefer that we use public permissionless blockchains with low environmental impacts. Are there any requirements around sensitive data or encrypting the data on the blockchain once it's published?
No, so typically how it would work, because of the block space is limited on just about every blockchain. So really we'd be recording the metadata of the handshakes using blockchain with data pointers back to a secure digital warehouse that would have more of the technical data on it. Today, when I was a pilot in the Air Force for 30 years, when I'd fly an airplane down for major maintenance, I'd fly with an accordion file of paper that weighed about 200 pounds. And that's how things were tracked on airplanes. So there wasn't these aggregatable data sets. There wasn't this digital provenance. And so as you can imagine, if there's a form, fit, function, or malfunction of a part, it took quite a long time to understand what the size of the offending parts were and what the impact was. So, but that data will be in a secure data warehouse. So if you think in terms of, what blockchain tools can I use in order to create that trust mechanism, that forensics mechanism, and so on, as you start thinking through, a form, fit, function, or malfunction or repair type of scenario.
Cool. Thank you, Colonel.
Any other questions from the crowd about the Veritex use case? And if you do have questions that you think of later, Jim, what's your handle on the Discord? Or can they just search
That's
your
actually
name?
I'm on it, Salacia, for some reason. That's what my Discord popped up when I logged on. So you'll see Salacia NFT on there, or NFT Salacia.
That's his NFT project that we may have for some winners at the end.
Yeah, Catherine, I did mention I've offered up NFTs for the winners. We did last year's winner received an NFT. So happy to where we can to contribute to the prizes.
Awesome. Well, we are ready, I think, to move on to our next. Thank you so much. Let's give him a round of applause.
Appreciate it.
Coming up next, we have the Executive Director from Art Ventures, Lakeisha Edwards, and we're so pleased to have you here today. They have a fabulous use case called Aventech, and Lakeisha is going to tell you more about it.
Thank you. So as she stated, I am Lakeisha Edwards. I am the Executive Director of Art Ventures, and I'm assuming my slides will be up in a second. I don't have much, but I will show you what I have. So this is our, thank you. This is our logo. Of course, it's Art Ventures, art for everyone. Hopefully you've seen it around town. We have several exhibitions, including Theater Square, Chamber of Commerce, the Public Library, and here on campus at the Faulkner Center. So Art for Everyone is our tagline, and that's really what we focus on in regards to our programming with our art education, artist representation, and also community outreach. So our mission statement is Art Ventures promotes the visual arts in Northwest Arkansas by actively collaborating with the community, supporting artists working to the highest standards, encouraging education and public engagement in the arts, and providing accessibility to underrepresented communities. And that's why it's so important for us to give them additional access on NFT platforms. So we have a couple of problems, and they're pretty severe. Of course, as most nonprofits, it centers around funding. So we need more revenue. We also want to represent our artists to the highest extent, but currently we do not have a way to securely transfer access to their work in the following scenarios. So we have electronic portfolios for exhibitions, such as the exhibitions I mentioned before, at different locations. When we want to transfer that information or give them the information regarding those exhibitions, we don't necessarily want to give them the final copy or the originals for them to have consistent access to. We also ask new artists to give us their work so that we can review it, and many of our artists that we deal with for the first time are very insecure about giving us their original documents. Transfer ownership to buyers, and of course that's self-explanatory. So if someone actually purchases the art, we want them, either digital or otherwise, we want them to have something that has like a copyright or something that shows a certificate of authenticity. Temporary access to the art rental. So that's a new concept where we really want to expand the access to art rental. We do have some additional opportunities to do that in person, but we want to expand on a platform where we can allow organizations or even events like this to actually display originals on a digital platform. And then, of course, last but not least, our digital artists do not have a digital platform for their work, and ultimately they settle for just printing it because they want to sell, but they can't necessarily transfer it securely on a digital platform. So the solution. So an NFT solution would create the opportunity to reach a consistently evolving audience. And that's really important because in a traditional gallery, people just come in and they look at the work. They go home, they may think about it, they may go to our website, but if we give them a platform where they can consistently watch things on that platform, they can transfer it to other people to ask them to be more involved and engaged. We can give the opportunity for the artists to build their clientele through maybe coins or something that they're offering to their clients so that if they actually want to purchase, they can get percentages off, or even creating an atmosphere where they are rewarded for the support that they give those artists. We also, of course, want to increase the sales, and the sale of the work is a win-win for the artists as well as Art Ventures. So we do receive a commission from each of the sales. So that commission allows us to have more revenue for our programming. And again, as I mentioned before, our programming includes more than just artist representation. We also have a K-12 gallery initiative where we include additional art education in our school system. We know that this is important because most school systems only do the bare minimum for art education. But we truly believe that the solutions needed to solve our current problems with environmental sustainability, with cyber attacks, they all stem from these creative minds that are going to be exposed by art. So we want to pour into the next generation through those programs, and we also want to pour into not just our local artists, but artists that are connected to our organization through our other exhibitions. That's all I got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions for Lakeisha about the Art Ventures case? All right, awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Great job. Okay, so for our third presentation of the night, I'm so excited to introduce Brooke Bierhaus. She is here to talk about our fake news, restoring trust in news use case. She is a very accomplished young woman. She's the downtown media host and producer, documentary filmmaker, photojournalist, and she currently is working on several projects with Downtown Bentonville, Inc. So Brooke, please come up and share with us about restoring trust in news.
Thank you. Awesome, thanks. All right. So that was a perfect introduction. I'm so excited for this use case. I have been working in and around the news for the last decade, mostly operating outside of mainstream media as a documentary filmmaker. And even I feel like I sometimes don't trust what's out there, what's being reported, and the use of social media has made misinformation so easily spreadable, I suppose is the best way to say that, just so easy to spread. And how do we know if our news and what's being reported is actually accurate? Well, I was going to come up here and I was going to just lie to you, honestly. I was going to just tell you a ton of statistics, and then at the very end, I would be like, ha ha ha, that's how misinformation happens. But instead, I wanted to show you a very important, a very real video that's going to help you understand misinformation. So if we could play that. Oh, we might not have audio. Just a second. Anchorman 2 for anybody who wondered if it was the first or the second. So as we're waiting for the audio, Ron Burgundy is getting on. He sees that there is a car chase. And he just says, give me the mic. And so this will start. I believe maybe we'll have audio. If not, I do have a link on that we could just click on for it. There it is. Let's try that. Because I want you to hear how this starts and then what occurs. It's about a 2-minute, maybe a little less video.
That's not news.
Oh, here we go. I hear the audio.
Live, okay? And don't question me again. Bill!
Now, to you, the modern viewer,
Here we go.
reporting on a car chase may seem commonplace.
What's that? Huh?
We can combine them.
That's nothing. That's just a car chase of the satellite feed from Milwaukee. You know what? Give it to me live to start the broadcast. No, that's not news, Ron. Give it.
Okay, good. Awesome. Here we go. Again, very important, very real.
Live from New York, we have breaking news developing in our nation's heartland. A high-speed car chase is in progress,
Keep the
reaching
breaking news
speeds
logo
of
up. Keep it up.
100
Keep up the graphic.
miles per hour. And for the first time in news history, we will stay with it live until it resolves in either a huge accident or massive shootout.
Hurry, get in here! There's a car chase on the news!
This is the pulse of what's going on in our country right now.
Freddie, what's going on? Why is there a local car chase on the TV?
It's Burgundy. He insisted.
Can't you see what the son of a bitch is doing? He didn't have a story, so he made one.
You can't do that.
Tell Ron to speculate who's driving the car.
Ron, speculate on who's driving the car.
We believe the driver may be on drugs. He's probably 6'7", 6'8", but a skinny 6'7", 6'8", about 160. He may have a hostage or two. We don't know. He could have something.
Phone lines are lighting up. It's about the chase. I've never seen anything like it.
This is extremely gripping. Oh, he just hit a car. He just hit a car. He hit a car. Did you see that? He hit a car. Wow.
He hit the car.
He hit the car.
When did the news get awesome? And he just loses it. Wow, that's exactly what we needed. It was getting a little boring. We were just getting word that police have finally apprehended the suspect. It turns out that he's an elderly gentleman. He's 80 years old, and he was simply confused. I'm Ron Burgundy. Don't just have a great night. Have an American night.
Yeah, so as you can see,
And we are clear.
that would be how misinformation gets spread, right? Speculate on the driver. Tell us more about what's happening. It's entertainment. So how do we draw that line between entertainment and news? I think it's really important to create that transparency. And I think that on a hyper-local level, which is what we are at Downtown Bentonville Inc., our downtown media storytelling platform is hyper-local. So that's stories that are here in Northwest Arkansas. They're profile pieces, but also entertainment. There's also events. We tell and help report the news in a different coinciding with our local news stations. So in that case, I really believe that hyperlocal will be able to create that really initial component that we need to restore trust back into the media. And so what does that look like? Just as some off the cuff, I just had a few things that might work on a platform. So maybe use tokenomics that reward news outlets for accuracy and unbiased fact reporting. That could be really important. Maybe those fact checkers then have governance tokens, so then we have ownership in a way. Maybe the storytelling platforms that are on this that you build, because it doesn't have to be just for Downtown Bentonville Inc. and Downtown Media. It could be a whole platform that allows for fact checking. So maybe all of these news outlets that come in get a score, and viewers can see how accurate they are on their scores, and they get rewarded. We really want your imagination to just run free with this. And hopefully you can help us to reinstill more trust into the media. So any questions? Yeah, in the back.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Delasha. I'm a graduate student. So my question for you is, why do you think that a blockchain solution is appropriate for this, as opposed to maybe training media personnel about ethics? Because that's really the source of where the fake news is coming from.
Yes, absolutely. Great question. I think being able to, even when we're trained in those ethics, right? So it's hard to really draw that line, and then for the viewer to be like, oh, they were trained, or like if maybe you'd have all of their credentials up there, but the viewer is just like, how do I know that that's actually true, or did they fabricate those interviews? And I think for us to be able to actually have a way for people to transparently see what each news organization's getting, or how these stories have been fact-checked, and have all that information readily available. And then the ownership component, I think, would be really interesting to that too. It's something I'd like to see fleshed out in a more, I think it would be interesting, but I'd like to see what people come up with. So really good question though. I think ethics is definitely important regardless. Yeah. Any other questions? Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke. All right. And blockchains are a family affair. If you don't know, Brooke is related to your very own Dr. Conway. And our next presenter is my husband, as well as his colleague. So I'd like to welcome Jordan Carlisle and Amanda Eke to the stage from the Whole Health Institute. And you'll get to hear a bit more about it. It's a newer organization here in Northwest Arkansas, and they will tell you about a blockchain-based personal health empowerment use case.
All right, so good evening, everybody. My name is Amanda Eke, and I am the Health Information Systems Specialist at Whole Health Institute.
And I'm Jordan Carlisle, and I'm the head of technology for the Whole Health Institute. And to start off, I'm going to pass it back over to Amanda to give a little bit of background on the Whole Health Institute itself, and then I'll dive into the use case.
Thank you, Jordan. All right, so the Whole Health Institute was funded by Alice Walton in 2019 to make whole health available to all people in all communities. Alice's experience with art, nature, and quality of life initiatives led to making wellness accessible to all. So then we're going to jump to, what is whole health? So whole health is a model of healthcare where individuals are encouraged to practice self-care and orient their health journey around what's most meaningful to them. For example, patients are more likely to adopt positive behavior change when they associate their goals with aspects of their lives that are most important to them, like family, accomplishments, big goals, or fulfilling a dream. To support this approach, care teams include a broader range of professionals than what traditional healthcare systems prioritize. In a whole health model, well-being professionals that help people eat well, stay fit, lower stress, and optimize rest are not only essential, but also include in the healthcare payment model. Traditional healthcare providers, like primary care physicians and specialists, are also essential. However, instead of addressing acute medical conditions in isolation, providers are incentivized to empower patients to opt for non-medical interventions when it leads to more optimal health outcomes for the whole person.
Awesome, thank you, Amanda. And I'll add just a little bit more to that as well. When we think about the size of this problem set, some of the largest problems in our society today revolve around our healthcare system and keeping people healthy, especially when we look at this problem in the United States and how life expectancy is going down over time, and we're becoming more unhealthy. And when you look at the root cause of what is really leading to that, it's not that we're it's not that we have like unique diseases or things that are necessarily increasing that, although we do have the pandemic that happened recently that we're still dealing with. But when you really uncover what is the root cause of most of the healthcare costs, it's chronic illness that can be addressed with behavior change and practicing healthier habits and better lives. And so our solution or our challenge that we're posing is the Whole Health Institute is seeking a blockchain network that empowers individuals to own their health and medical data on an open source network using the Fast Healthcare Interoperability Resources API, also known as FHIR. And this is the latest standard that hospitals use to transmit data that's still kind of being adopted and championed. And when enough data sources or when enough data is accumulated, the network will be able to facilitate things like digital twins. So taking real-time data about your habits and your behaviors and making a digital clone of that, and then being able to apply things like AI to that to make real-time recommendations about what you can do to improve your health. And ultimately, it also empowers individuals because right now, if you wanted to change a healthcare system or go to a new provider, the process for getting your data and then handing it off is very cumbersome, and ultimately you don't have a lot of control. But with a blockchain solution, you could potentially own that data, and you would have the ability to go anywhere you want and permission people to be able to access that. So some of the specific features that we're looking for, or the specifications that we would hope to see in this. So individual health records must only be accessible or permissioned by the individual that it originated from. Healthcare and well-being providers should be able to access an individual's health information when the individual grants that permission to read the data and write data to their on-chain identity. Developers must be able to build applications on top of that network that can read and write records about an individual's health. And developers and providers must be able to amend to specific records within a block of transactions to provide second opinions and address misdiagnoses. And just to kind of illuminate a little bit more, so thinking about who are the players in this network, we have the individuals, we have healthcare and wellness providers, we also have application developers that build on top of the network, and then you also have claims validators, so the payment, the payers that are incentivizing everything, and then you have researchers that could potentially tap into this wealth of data. And then we also have some stretch goals, but I'll save that for folks who decide to use this use case, and hopefully that gives you a little incentive to check that out. Let's open up to questions. Oh, and also just to give you a little bit about background. So like from a mentorship standpoint, I'm really good at thinking about like software applications, and Amanda is our go-to expert, anything healthcare data related. And so look for us in the Discord channel if you have questions around those topics. Any questions? Yes.
Is FastFire only an interface spec today, or is there some data warehouse that's centralized? How does it work today?
Yeah, so it's actually it's like a API standard. So when a health system, and you may want to add to this too, when a health information system or an application builds their API, FHIR has a certain set of standards in terms of the data type and everything, and also some standards around using JSON so that it's accessible via the internet.
Was that defined by a public body?
Yes, I think it was the American Medical Association and a few other.
Yeah. Is ANSI involved?
antsy, yeah, possibly. But yes, there were governing kind of bodies that define that.
It's like an ANSI. I think you can Google it. ANSI.
Yeah.
It's a standard.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Hi, I have a question. So the data that you guys will be getting, will it be like real time, like generated like regularly by the patient itself, or provided by the like the hospitals that the user will then authenticate and push on the blockchain?
Theoretically, both. So when you're at a visit with a healthcare provider, the data would be originated from the healthcare provider or the wellness professional. But you could also consider things like wearables that would generate data in real time. Yeah, so you could consider that as well. Thank y'all.
All right, thank you guys. Up next, we can pull up our virtual presenter, Marlene VM, and she is here representing Bechainify. They are very active in hackathons all over the country, and she is going to tell us about restoring faith in elections and democracy. Welcome, Marlene. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Hello, my fellow hackathon participants. My name is Marlene Beam, and I am representing Bechainify. We are a nonprofit Web3 decentralized finance distributed technologies team that builds decentralized apps for transparent and fair voting and governance, and also risk analytics tools on the blockchain. So today, my challenge to you is to help us restore faith in democracy. And as senior elected officials in charge of election for your chosen jurisdiction, your challenge is to design a blockchain-enabled election system that ensures authenticity, fairness, transparency, and accuracy, while at the same time preserving the voters' rights to privacy. So your solution should be targeted to the senior election officials in charge of election for your chosen jurisdiction. In the US, the election process is held at the state level. So typically you would be targeting your solution to the Secretary of State Election Division, possibly the chairman of the Election Commission and the members of the election board. Okay, so in order to be successful, the solution should include Web3 technologies, including the identity of the voter, which is represented as a decentralized identity, also known as a verifiable credential. So according to the Web3C standards, a verifiable credential is a tamper-evident credential that has authorship that can be cryptographically verified, in this case on the blockchain. Verifiable credentials comprise 4 roles forming a trust diamond in the figure in front of you. And so the trust diamond is the verifier, those who are authorized to count and audit the election results, the governing authority, laws and regulations regarding voting rights and procedures for the district that your election is held in, also the issuers, those who authorize these credentials to the voter at the top of the trust diamond, which is the holder of the authorized credential. In order to be successful, this solution should have an easy to use interface. It should also meet with the American Disabilities Act, possibly language translations, depending on your voting demographics. The solution should integrate and accommodate voters that do not have technology, so it should be able to integrate with current legacy systems. It should also satisfy the business and legal requirements for your stakeholders, so that would be the Secretary of State rules. And then finally, it should consider competing solutions, so build versus buy, and then of course, integration with the current voting systems. Okay, so the last slide here is, it's said that history may not repeat, but it often rhymes. So I encourage you to look back at US elections and voting history and learn from those mistakes. The solution should be resilient, inclusive, and trusted, and good luck. And with that, I'll stop presenting and I will take any questions.
Thank you so much, Marlene. Do we have a question for Marlene about restoring trust in elections? Marlene, if they want to reach out to you, are you on the Discord channel? Or I believe we do have your email available also on the use case. So she will be available if you think of questions later. But thank you so much. We can go ahead and give a round of applause for Marlene.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. All right. You guys have made it halfway through. We are going to have another recorded use case sent in from a fine group of ladies across the pond in the UK from Bloom's Art House Collective. We can listen to this recording, and then right after that, we're going to take a 5-minute break. You can use the restroom. You can grab some food we still have in here, grab some water, and then we'll meet back here 5 minutes after this video. So thanks.
Hello. We are the Blooms, and we are delighted to be a part of this hackathon event. Now, I think it makes sense to tell you a little bit about the Blooms before I talk about us as individual artists. So we are a collective of international artists, and we got together at the start of the pandemic. We actually all joined an online course to learn how to sell our art online. Makes sense? We stayed together and formed the Blooms because we felt like we could learn and support each other. And the very first thing that we did, other than get together on a weekly basis, was to decide to do an online show. Now, we decided to do this show different to the normal online shows, i.e. we didn't just want to see a website of flat art that you could scan, a bit like online dating really, left or right, that sort of thing. We wanted to produce an online in-person show, and we started that with the Blooms, which we did 3 times a year, and we now just do it annually. And funny enough, we've got one coming up in a couple of months, and obviously you are all invited, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. So why are we here today? Well, we're here today because we are both innovative and creative, and we like to use tech as a way to promote our art as well as us as artists, because to sell your art, it's not just about the artist is equally important. So as you can see, one of our strengths as a collective is the variety of mediums and techniques that we use to actually create our art. Also, we love to use tech, but not for the sake of using tech or in the same old way. We like to use it very much as a tool or a platform. Not, we don't see IT as the be all and end all, and I'm sorry if that upsets you, but we're artists, you understand.
Steph, don't forget to tell them.
Cindy, yeah, absolutely. Got it. God, everyone's a critic, aren't they? Yes, so what Cindy is making sure I don't forget to tell you is that we are not digital artists, and neither do we want to be digital artists. So we've come up with some of the issues or opportunities that we have seen, but obviously you may come up with your own ideas because you understand your technology better than we do. But so let me introduce you to our world and some of the issues that we come up against. So firstly, we produced a fab show, and we've used the Zoom technology, and we've used it in a very different way because we actually have a receptionist and people come into each of the rooms. We actually have breakout rooms we set up that people can walk between, and they actually go in Cindy's studio and see her in Australia. They go and see Elisa in Italy, and it very much is, as we say, an online but in-person experience, because the artist is there, you can see their art, and they can actually show you it all in 3D, etc., etc. Now, if you've got a better way of doing any kind of show in this online, so that we can still actually have like an international art experience online, that would be fabulous. Obviously, there's what I consider to be the kind of normal issues of theft, copying, copyright. Now, obviously, there's theft of the physical art, but there's also each piece of physical art has a certificate of authenticity with it, which has a signature and also an image of the art on it. And there's an element of how could that perhaps be made secure? So you have to authenticate that piece of art that you've got through this other system. Also, I'm not sure if you're aware, but traceable sales. So if our art is sold through an auction house, then the original artist, us, we actually receive a percentage of that sale. But when there are private sales, which obviously go between collector and collector, that's untraceable by us, and therefore we don't actually partake in those sales at all. So is that something which could be used in this system? But just in general, the authentication, the certificate of authenticity, there seems to be a lot of areas around that where, you know, it could be used from a documentation point of view. As I say, we don't want to go digital with the art, but there are plenty of other ways that we can go digital. So hopefully that's helped you to think outside the digital paint box, as I say. So your mission, should you choose to accept it, how can we use NFT and the blockchain technology for solutions to some of these or all of these issues, or even come up with some other opportunities yourself that obviously we can't see with our more narrow looking at the art perspective. We love very much to be kept in the forefront of technology, but we don't want to sell our artistic soul to the technological devil. Now, we are obviously around to answer questions. I'll give you more information, or you can go to theblooms.co.uk and find out more about us. But I think there's just about enough time now for us to say good night. Good night.
Bye.
And I hope you've taken notes, because this video self-destructs in 3 seconds.
Okay, you guys take 5 minutes and we'll meet back here. And don't miss the last set of amazing use cases. We're only halfway done, so we got some really good ones coming up.
It's my pleasure to welcome you to this big event for us as a university, as a college, and for the Department of Information Systems here.
I don't have to tell this group that what an exciting technology that blockchain really is. It's a disruptive technology similar to what we saw many, many years ago coming out of Silicon Valley and other places. I think it's of that. So the Blockchain Center of Excellence is about thinking bigger. I think it's about asking questions and seeing where else this technology can actually take us. And above that, what I'm very pleased with and very proud of is that I think as an institution, we're on the leading edge of something really big.
Hope is looking at life on tiptoes, and that's the image I have. But to me, that illustrates where we are with blockchain, looking at the future on tiptoes, seeing where will this lead us. And Dr. Lassity, I'll tell you, I have some hopes for this center. And I don't want to put too much on your shoulders too early, but the first hope is that this center will be an excellent support for our industry leaders that are a part of this. For Mark Best, IBM, JB Hunt, Tyson, and Walmart, key industry leaders that this center needs to support and is designed to support in their blockchain innovation. Secondly, this center is my hope that this center will be a research institution, as it will be, an advocate for new applications that fit Arkansas. I hope that there's much that comes out of this center in new applications and innovations and where this can lead our state in terms of economy and efficiency and industry opportunities.
All right, if we can make our way back to the room, back to your seats, please. We're going to continue with our use case presenters. And our next one is really fun because it involves the metaverse. So our sponsor company is Qlytics, but today Dr. Daniel Conway will be presenting this use case to you all and telling you more about Metaverse audit of the Decentraland Metaverse. Dr. Conway, can you please assist us at the front? Oh, here he comes, here he comes. Oh, I got it right here. All right, give Dr. Conway a round of applause.
More. Happy St. Patrick's Month, everybody. Followed by the very sad season of taxes. So I'm going to present a couple cases here. My colleague in this one, Aaron Patel, had to go to Pennsylvania, which means you have somehow offended God to be sent to Pennsylvania in early March. So he couldn't join us tonight traveling. The case that is on the document here is regarding Metaverse. And I have a number of friends in this space who have different interests, but they all sort of intersect in the idea of what's actually going on in the Metaverse. How do we audit it? How do we know if something abnormal is going on? And some of these friends, Qlytics is a company that's been around for about 40 years. And if you get a job at IBM or Amazon or Hewlett-Packard or Pfizer, any most large international corporations, you onboard through their tools, their educational tools. And your continuing ed within some of these corporations uses the tools of Qlytics. So they've been around quite a while. And they are now asked to produce educational material in Metaverse. And you know, the Metaverse is different than the physical world because if there's a fire in here, we kind of smell it and we know how to get out. But in the Metaverse world, we don't really have all of our senses. We don't have the way to know what's normal and thus what's abnormal. So anything regarding risk management, we don't have a good mechanism for measuring things that are going on in the Metaverse. Now, recently, some of my friends are concerned with the SWIFT financial system and likely what we're going to see is the Western system will continue to use SWIFT, and then other parties in the world will go to their own financial backbones. And how does money move back and forth between this bifurcated system? It will likely be through the metaverse. So people want to know what's going on, who's buying what, and so on. Think about Zillow. Anybody know how much Zillow is worth, their market cap? It's come down a little bit, but it's about $12 billion. Zillow just gathers data about what people are doing with real estate and packages it and presents it to others. We kind of need a Zillow and Metaverse to gather that data, and we need to know how to gather data. And we need to know sort of what's abnormal, what things are happening. You'd think financially abnormal means the prices are going crazy in one area or something, but other forms of abnormalities that might be going on, things that are not what we kind of hope to be happening in the metaverse. So a number of my friends have interest in the space, and it kind of all comes down to what's really happening and what's normal behavior, what's abnormal behavior in metaverse. So this case I put together with Aaron. And what he's looking for and what my other friends are looking for is a way to read the Ethereum blockchain for the most part. So Ethereum is the sort of hub of decentralized finance. Certain groups want to know who's trading what and who's making investments. You who trade crypto are going to find out in April that you have to have a profit and loss statement. And you probably don't have one of those, right? I provide liquidity pools and the secret network and crazy things in my life, and I sometimes do things and don't pay close attention to them. But in April 15th, I have to know all that. So we all have an interest in knowing what we're doing in blockchain space and metaverse stuff. So this case is about going into Decentraland, which is not a virtual reality, but a metaverse type of environment. People are buying tracts of land for $5 million, US dollars value of land. And so the case is about going into the smart contract, the land smart contract of Ethereum, and how can you start to measure this? So think again about what Zillow does, and if you build something worth $12 billion, don't forget tithing to the university of about 10%. You have to kind of give back to us. Care of Dan Conway, Department of Information Systems. I'll make sure it gets to the right people. Or you can use my Bitcoin address more directly. But think about everything that's going to go on. Metaverse education is going to be in Metaverse. Your company meetings are going to be in Metaverse. How do we know what's going on in there? Who's joining? Who's buying assets? Who's selling assets? Pairs of individuals who seem to be transacting a lot. All these things investigative bodies are interested in. All these things learning companies are interested in. So this is a case that'd be, if you're interested in sort of how Ethereum does things and how to pull data off these smart contracts and turning them into another form of value add. That's what we're trying to accomplish with this one. Are we all done? I think I ran out of time. No. Did I mention it's St. Patrick's Month?
The month. Never heard of the month. That's awesome. Thank you, Dan. No, you're right on time. Perfect. All right. Next up, I'm so excited to introduce a couple folks from Mycelium Networks. If you read the news, you know today is a big day because there was a huge announcement from Mycelium, but you can ask them more about that later. Right now, we have Liam coming up, and he is going to tell us about reducing theft in supply chains.
Hello, whoa. Hello, everybody. Sorry, I don't think I've ever held a microphone. Just let me know if I'm yelling into this thing. By the way, I'm not nervous. It's just freezing in here. I don't know if anyone else, it's just like 35 degrees in here. Could anyone do me a favor and put the other PowerPoint on first? Because I have two. The next one is the blue light system one.
This is when we need traveling music.
Yeah, right.
We could call the Hogs.
I'm glad they gave me the controller. I was wondering what to do with my left hand. was going to put it in my pocket, need like a cup of coffee or a cigar or something. Okay, so I'm Liam. I'm from Mycelium Networks. I've got some familiar faces in here. Stephen Whitty over there. I see you put your sweatshirt on. That was smart. Yeah.
I'll sell it.
I'm from Mycelium Networks. We deploy, operate, and maintain decentralized wireless networks. The current project and what we're going to talk about today is the Helium Network. Show of hands, who's familiar with the Helium Network here? No, that was power. Just getting people to raise their hands like that. Feel powerful up here. Good. So for those of you who don't know, I think everyone did raise their hand, but it is a decentralized wireless network for IoT devices based on the LoRaWAN protocol. So we're going to present two challenges today. Whoever chooses these challenges, if you choose these challenges, it probably says a few things about you. You might be a little bit more interested in actual hardware, networking, real-life solutions, things that you can see and touch and feel. What is important about this hackathon, this challenge, or any hackathon in general, is with these sorts of challenges, birds of feather should not flock together. A challenge like this is going to require people with hardware knowledge, people with software knowledge, people with business knowledge, people with common sense. And sometimes those things don't just combine in one person. And so I would encourage you, I don't know if you already have teams or anything like that or how this is working, but to sort of walk a little bit out of your circle to find a team that could help you succeed with this. So it is a very technical application. It's very hands-on. It is as digital as it is physical. And so it's not just software and finance. We're talking about hardware and a lot of really cool stuff here. So I'm going to go ahead right now and talk about the first challenge. Who here is familiar with blue light systems? Do we have them at the U of A? We do. Okay, cool. So blue light systems, they started in the 80s. There was a high-profile murder at a university in Pennsylvania. There was an organization formed around this high-profile murder. I think it was by the family, and they began, the whole idea began growing a lot, and a lot of universities began to adopt the idea. They sort of reached their peak in the early 2000s. Coincidentally, as any of us who were alive and had a brain in the 2000s, right when cellular phones started becoming very popular. Nothing like they were now. This was still a time when we were using payphones. A lot of you probably can't even fathom what that was, but it was very, very real. A blue light system at that time was essentially a payphone, but there was only one number. You just pressed a button, it just called 911. Pretty simple, right? The problem with them was they were extremely expensive. So we're talking about $20,000 a unit. Maintenance costs were very high. And you're talking about a lot of universities, huge campuses, deploying up to 100 of these things on campus. So you can imagine the costs we're talking about here. Now, it's funny because right as they reached their peak, as they were reaching their peak, and basically universities following other universities and following the trend, cellular phones were becoming very, very popular. It was crazy for those of us who were raised and lived at that time, how quickly cell phones really grew. And how it was all about a really small cell phone for a long time, and then all of a sudden they got bigger again, which was weird. But anyway, that was the thing. I mean, having a cell phone was just a little bit more practical than going to a blue light and pressing a button and calling 911. I mean, it was a lot easier to whip out your cell phone, call 911, and keep walking, right? It wasn't very practical to just stop. And so the problem was these things were very, very expensive and very expensive to maintain, but no one was using them, except, drunk kids making prank calls or whatever. So here are the downfalls. So it's slow. It's very slow. You have to say you're being followed on campus, for example, and you feel very uncomfortable, or something's happening, there's a fight on campus. You have to go and walk over to this blue light thing, you have to press a button, the phone rings, and someone has to answer the phone. Someone telling you to calm down, or someone trying to ask you questions, when really you're just worried about saving yourself. You're probably in panic mode. They also rely on the host organization's power grid and the network infrastructure. So these are hardwired systems. right? So for example, if the power were to go out, if you're in the middle of a storm, for example, these blue light systems are essentially useless, right? They do not address the safety of the user. So what happens if I'm being followed? Once again, I go and I press this button, right? And I say, hey, yeah, I'm at the blue light over here on campus or whatever. And I gotta wait for Batman to come. But I'm in danger, right? So I'm expected to go and stop and wait at this blue light. What happens if the person, I'm the victim, a person takes me somewhere else, or I have to run and I have to run away? Well, the cops come to where the blue light is at and I'm nowhere to be found. So the problem is not being solved. And once again, let's not go and put a price on safety, right, of someone's life on campus. We can't do that. It would not be a very ethical thing to do. But it's responsible of us to go and make these things more accessible. So this is funny we talk about leveraging disruptive technology because we're talking about 915 megahertz here, so this is not anything new. These are technologies that have existed for decades. What has changed are the tools around these technologies, such as data processing softwares and things like that. Now we also have technologies that surround them that allow us to go and create functions and act upon the data that we're collecting with that network. So here's the requirements. You're going to build a blue light system. It must utilize the Helium network. It must be simple enough to be operated by anyone in any situation. So we're talking about someone in panic, right? I'm sure a lot of you have experienced panic before. You're not exactly a genius when you're panicking, right? So it should be something simple. This is actually a panic button right here. It's pretty easy to operate. You just press a button. It should have a reasonable transmission speed for an emergency situation. So it shouldn't take a lot of time to get a response from. Some considerations here. So you may want to go sort of the extra mile and add additional security features to whatever tool you end up building. Flashing lights, an alarm, sounding alarm, something like that. You could also include in your pitch addressing the idea of network coverage. I'm sure a lot of you know how the Helium network works and how they have sort of monetized the idea of coverage. But just you need to think about who your customer is. And so your customer should be the one helping you to achieve that coverage. Right now in Northwest Arkansas, the coverage is here. This is one of the best places in the world for the Helium network to go and build tools like this. But it'd be interesting to see in your pitches how you would address in any other situation, such as an airport or anywhere, how you'd address coverage. Also, your solution should address the downsides of blue light systems in the past and the reasons that they lost popularity. Resources provided. So the greatest thing about this challenge is that you can hang out with me. So you can count on us, on Liam. I was born handsome and not smart. Sam is another use case expert. He's more of a technical guy. Sam has built these things from scratch. I have experience deploying these things and using them in the field and applying them to business use cases. I am at the office from Monday to Friday, and I'm always looking for an excuse to not do my job. So you can always come in. I'm always on Discord as well. My name is Fudge Nasty on Discord. You can look for me there. And Sam is WW. So you got both of us, and we will help you from both of those perspectives. If I can do it and Sam can do it, trust me, you can do it. It is challenging, but you can do it. It's very, very possible. We have all the hardware. So if you would like to actually build something physical, we will provide that hardware for you. You have ideas. If there's hardware that we don't have, there is a QR code there in that packet that you can look at the hardware that we will provide. There are other things that are not on that list that we also have. I'm very interested in hearing what whoever accepts this challenge wants to build, and I'm sure there are ways to provide all those things. Software, this is very important. So that data has to go somewhere. It should go to some sort of software product that processes that data. There are a lot of options out there. Sam uses one that's called Data Cake. There's another one that I use called Ubidots, and actually they are helping us out. And anyone who accepts this challenge will get a free license for that software, an extended license and a pro license. The person who is doing us that favor is actually the niece of a professor at the university. So that's interesting. We will also offer data credits. Data on the Helium network is extremely cheap, but so are college students. So we will provide those for you. if you need them. And then obviously you can count on us for coverage. Coverage is great here in Northwest Arkansas, but if you happen to be in a place, if you live up in the hills somewhere or something, or you're having trouble with coverage, we will always help you provide that. We can provide a gateway for that. Cool. Oh, can I get the next one? The next one's shorter, sorry. Reducing theft in supply chains with IoT asset tracking. So, asset tracking and asset protection. We're not just talking about where an asset is, where an object is located, right? Asset tracking and asset protection involves in monitoring the environment that surrounds an asset as well. And so this is a sector that's projected to grow a lot in the next 5 years. We have some transportation people here. One of them is Stephen Whitty over there. I keep calling you out. I'm sorry. But as we know, transportation is an industry that has a lot of moving pieces, and it takes a lot of work to make them change anything. And so a lot of systems in that industry are very outdated. You really, and Stephen can tell anyone here, that if you want to make any changes and implement any new technology, you have to bleed. You have to beg for people to make even the smallest change. And so there is a huge gap in the industry for solutions like this. Existing systems are much more expensive than the Helium network, and they do require dedicated teams for maintenance of the network and all that sort of stuff. Some of you may have read in recent news about the 2045 transportation plan. I don't actually know that much about it, so feel free, anyone, to correct me if I say anything wrong, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit. The point is that Arkansas is planning on being sort of a hub for transportation within the U.S. soon. So, I mean, we have J.B. Hunt in the area, one of the largest transportation companies in North America, number 315 on Fortune 500, right? We have, this plan, there was a bunch of different players involved, including the University of Arkansas, Walmart, FedEx, and J.B. Hunt. So you have a huge amount of potential in this space compared to the solutions that exist out there right now. Downfalls of current systems. They are expensive and to operate and maintain. A lot of them use legacy network protocols, old technologies that have just been around, and they're just scared to change them. It's risky to go and make a change like that when you have all these separate moving pieces, right? Because one guy that doesn't understand the new solution messes up, and you lose hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment. Sometimes we have problems with reliability and inaccurate data of where our data is at, what temperature it's at, what kind of state it's at, where it's heading, what direction it's heading in. Some of the equipment that they currently use in the industry is large, noticeable, it's bulky, it gets in the way, it hits a speed bump, and it breaks. In recent decades, we have the LoRaWAN protocol has grown a lot. The Helium network has helped a lot in that, helped it gain popularity. These things have become a little bit more accessible to people like you and I. The Helium network has certainly opened the gates for a lot of solutions providers, and it has become really, really easy to go and get these things. And so costs are getting a lot lower for sustaining and operating these systems. And then obviously we have the reduction in size of the actual single board computers and the ability to go and make these things much smaller, much more sleek, and just much more logical. There have also been improvements in the technology that comes behind geolocation. The requirements, once again, you are going to want to use the Helium network for this. There is a geolocation functionality within the network. It should be capable of a transmission speed that's reasonable for the particular application. Some things to keep in mind. This is not, we're not presenting this use case as the actual customer. That it actually in this case will be up to you. There are a lot of things to keep in mind when you do this. Think about who your customer is. Think about who your customer is, because that will form 100% what your solution is. It could be a fish market. It could be Walmart. It could be a university. It could be anybody. And you really have to keep all the things that business brings in mind when you build this, right? Addressing, once again, the concept of network coverage. Now, it's not the same with a blue light system, for example. You're talking about building coverage around a defined area. When you're talking about a asset monitoring solution, you're talking about building coverage around a much bigger area. But always just keep in mind who your customer is, because that's the person that should help you get that coverage. Think about read that transportation plan. It was approved last March. There is a PDF. If you Google it right now, there's a PDF you can go download and you can read the entire plan. Think about power sources. The same goes for the blue light system. Think about power sources. It would be really interesting to see. LoRaWAN in general is a very, very low power network. This right here has a battery that'll probably last, it'll probably last 6 months. There's a lot of devices out there that have batteries that'll last 10 years. The implementation of something like a solar panel or anything like that would be really, really interesting to see, especially when it comes to a more rugged and industrial level tracking device. Also, you can think about additional security features and other metrics that you may want to monitor. So it's not, once again, it's not just geolocation, right? You might want to, if it's a seafood distributor, you're really going to want to monitor that temperature, right? You might want to monitor the speed. We're done? Okay, guys. Okay, I'm done. Same thing. Basically, we provide the same resources for this one as we did for the last one. That's it. Do I have time for questions?
We can have one.
Are there any questions?
One question.
Sir.
Are we going to be doing like both use cases or focusing?
You would choose one or the other.
Okay.
You could actually, you could intertwine them though, like for example, with the blue light, you could also involve geolocation, that sort of stuff. And with asset monitor, you can involve like a panic button, that kind of stuff as well. Anyone else?
Thank you so much. And they have a super accessible team that is very active with our students. So if you have follow-up questions or want to hear more about either of those specific use cases, I know they are all here to help support you with that. So next up, we have a passionate entrepreneur among us, Miss Christy Russ. I'd like to call you to the stage. We are going to walk through, and she's going to help explain how you can help guide social impact organizations like Center for Creators into the Metaverse. And this is Miss Christy Russ, founder and CEO of Center for Creators.
Thank you very much. Hello. Oh, perfect. Oh, okay, I do. I also need my glasses. So Center for Creators is uplifting and inspiring the world. It's a permissionable, interoperable community that's built on the XRP ledger, and we're utilizing the CFC token and evolving into the metaverse. We're creating NFTs for services, workshops, books, memberships, avatars, real estate, advertising, collectibles, and more. We're building physical and virtual duplicate locations, and will host wellness and personal development services at both locations. The wellness and metaverse industries combined are estimated to be close to a $20 trillion market opportunity. We're currently creating NFTs for services, workshops, memberships, collectibles on OpenSea, and we're looking to develop our own NFT creator with smart contract capabilities, more specific for all that we're doing, and adding avatars, real estate, advertising, and more. I've also created the CFC token, and which I launched in mid-December. Within 24 hours of launching, it went viral and organically had over 100,000 impressions. We have over 7,400 engaged Twitter followers, and we're ranked in the top 1% of tokens, over 7,400 tokens on the XRP ledger. We're currently on 3 exchanges, and we are looking at properties up to 200 acres in the Northwest Arkansas area, primarily on Beaver Lake, to do a not so typical type of retreat. We will have meditation and yoga, but we're also going to have high adrenaline type of experiences combined with mindfulness that will raise your vibration. So, and that is the CFC token. And we're looking to duplicate all of this in the metaverse. So we want to do it bigger and better with the ability of reaching millions of people. And we want to duplicate the beautiful Northwest Arkansas and visualize all of Beaver Lake and Northwest Arkansas in the metaverse. In addition to hosting events, the services, activities at the physical location, we will host experiences and activities that aren't available here. Jumping out of helicopters into the lake, flying like an eagle, zip lines across the lake, and underwater experiences are just part of it. We want to make it magical, uplifting, fun, a retreat center and vacation spot in the metaverse. And this is what we're looking for. What the costs are, the pros and cons of the available and emerging choices. What is the community focus of each? What are the experiences like for users? How does each metaverse allow startups to build their own NFTs and avatars? We are looking to create our own avatars as well. Under what conditions should a startup seek to build their own metaverse platform rather than build on an existing one? So hackathon teams are asked to create a recommendation and education tool that can guide startups on their metaverse journeys based on their startup goals, target communities, and resources. The tool can point to existing metaverses, metaverse resources, and metaverse communities. So, thank you. Any questions? Okay. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Christy. That's such an interesting and exciting topic. One of our 2 metaverse cases, and it's definitely really hyped and fun topic on top of everyone's mind right now. All right, next up we have a recording from the Northwest Arkansas Council. They're going to walk us through our next use case on sharing economy for electrical vehicle charging stations across the state of Arkansas. And so Erin Shelton will be on the screen momentarily. And just 2 left, so
Hello,
we're almost
everyone.
done.
My name is Aaron Shelton, and I am here on behalf of the Northwest Arkansas Council to present this use case for you today. My role is particularly focused on talent recruitment and retention initiatives for the council, but the council's work goes back as far back as the early 90s when it was founded by some of our region's most prominent and well-known innovators. Think J.B. Hunt, Don Tyson, Sam Walton. These are the types of leaders that came together to create the council, and we've been carrying out sort of this work around regional collaboration and really working through ways we continue to adapt and promote growth in the region. I'm really excited about this use case because of some recent headlines and announcements that have been made in the past, 3 to 6 months, really. And so I'm going to present some of those headlines before we move into the use case, because I want you all to get excited about some of the things that are going to be happening both in Northwest Arkansas and across the state. All right, let's start with the first big announcement, and this was back in November. When you think of electric vehicles, you probably think of Tesla, right? But I want to invite you to check out Canoe, and they made a big announcement back in November. One, they shared that they were going to be moving their headquarters to Bentonville, and 2, they shared that they were going to be opening a research and development facility in Fayetteville. These 2 locations will complement what they are building just west of us in Oklahoma, which is a manufacturing facility to produce these vehicles. Super cool. The founder is awesome, innovative, and we couldn't be more excited about what this means for the region and the state moving forward. But then, fast forward just a few months, and just this February, we learned that in the northeast of the state, Veritex is going to be opening up a EV facility to produce their vehicles. So now we've had 2 huge EV announcements combined, probably going to create a little over 1,300 jobs. So on the heels of this announcement, we then heard from the governor and a consortium of different business leaders and stakeholders that Arkansas is staking its claim to be the next leader in next-gen transportation. And this announcement was made after the governor had announced the creation of the, let me look it up, the Arkansas Council on Future Mobility. Now, you take all of these things together, and I think you're going to be really excited about this particular use case. All right, now we get to the good, exciting part. Will you help Arkansas create a sharing economy for EV charging? Most electric vehicle charging stations are privately owned by people who buy electric cars. According to a report by EY, of the 3.5 million electric charging stations in the world, fewer than 500,000 are available to the public, and most of these are in China. The problem is that most car batteries only hold a charge for about 194 miles. Lack of car charging stations away from home is a significant obstacle to a more widespread adoption. But now let's turn to the state of Arkansas. As you've seen on the previous 3 slides, there's a lot of energy in welcoming EV and EV businesses. Yet, according to the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, Arkansas ranks last on overall EV adoption and infrastructure. We only have 200 EV charging stations, and only 38 of Arkansas's counties have any stations at all. So what we propose is that while building more public electric car charging stations is one solution, this use case solution proposes another. How about creating a sharing economy among owners of EV vehicles and owners of private electrical vehicles charging stations? And so who is our audience? Our audience is electric vehicle owners who live and travel through Arkansas and electric vehicle charging station owners. Now let's move to the details of this blockchain-based solution. When it comes to the design and features for the solution that we're looking for, we would like the team that takes this on to create a decentralized application that matches owners of charging stations with vehicle owners who need to charge their vehicle. Think of it as the Airbnb model for electric car charging stations, but one that is based on decentralization. Your solution needs to create a market matching demand and supply of EV charging stations with vehicles that need charging. Your solution should be blockchain enabled, but with a mobile interface, since most people will use the DApp in their car. The solution should be easy to use with a nicely designed user interface. The team should make sure that their solution will incentivize the major stakeholders to adopt the solution. If you build it, will they come? How will the owners of the EV charging stations trust the buyers? How will your solution establish fees for using someone's electric vehicle charging station? Many private charging stations are inside garages, so how will buyers gain access? Many owners may want to limit hours that strangers can access their chargers. How will your solution accommodate that? The team should be aware of competing applications and design a superior solution to attract adoption. And finally, the big final question: how will the platform be funded and paid for? I couldn't be more excited to hear the solution that the team that takes this on generates, and I look forward to the innovation that you will bring to this problem. Thank you for your time and good luck.
Okay, there we go. So y'all made it to the end. Last but not least, we have a use case sponsored by Munin Corporation, and it was created in partnership with the University of Arkansas, and it is about cryptocurrency incentives for open source developers. So Dr. Conway's going to come up, stretch your attention for 5 more minutes, and then we'll take a break. Yeah.
All right, well, they got the heat on, so the price of your jacket, Stephen, went down a little bit. Too late again. So John, Dr. John Patrick Ryan is helping with this case. He's not available this evening. He's a former Google executive and created what we call a decentralized web, stuff going on right now, very well connected Silicon Valley sort of person. We came together because the SolarWinds problem, the hack of our software supply chain, was a real substantial, probably one of the worst attacks on the United States we've ever seen. So a lot of us have come together, a lot of former Bell Labs fellows and folks who want to solve this problem have come together and identified some of the problems in it, and we've come up with some solutions using distributed ledgers where artificial intelligence will replace consensus in the current form of consensus, which is a rule orientation. We often start with spreadsheets and then go to databases and triggers and rules and rule engines and then move to artificial intelligence. So I think that's probably the progression of blockchain, maintaining immutability and some other positive features. But along this route, and we've had conversations with people who are interested in this, which is like everybody. 70% of the software used in the United States is open source software. It runs your combines and John Deere equipment. It runs Space Force satellites, Northrop Grumman stuff. Walmart knows more about the mangoes on their shelves than General Dynamics knows about the software in their missile systems. So we've got a real problem in our open source software system. So I'm here to basically say, grow up. I don't mean you, I mean the open source community needs to kind of grow up. We're producing a huge amount of software and there's nothing controlling that space. People need to get compensated. I'll give you an example. The DNS Mask is an open source package that was created by a school teacher in Iowa, and roughly 2004 is when it started. And he's retired now, and he likes to go fishing. And his software package is used in roughly 10 million modems, probably in your phone, to connect to things. And that package has had lots of problems over the years. But what's the incentive for him to stay engaged and to keep patching the software? John Deere would very much like to avoid all combines being shut down in September, right? That would be very bad. You think food prices are going up now. Shut down all the combines in September and see what it's like for the world. We know the open source compromises have led to airplanes disappearing and drones disappearing and things like that. So this is a real problem. It affects our grid. It affects our food supply. And among the problems that we've identified, and we're slowly trying to check them off, and this is not a profitable endeavor. These are all people that have decided somebody has to solve this problem. A lot of our intelligence agencies are compensated after the fact. Something has to go wrong, and they come into action in a forensic sense. But we need to do something to solve this problem. So among the problems is, how do we compensate open source developers? So a friend of mine runs John Deere, and he says, well, how do we pay these people? And I said, I don't need to pay them full time, but I'd like to retain them. You know, I want to say, you know, if something goes wrong with the software, I'd like to pay them 5 hours a month for the next 2 years so that I know that they'll be available. You know, 5 hours, that's all I need. I've got a new driver, your stuff doesn't work anymore, can you fix it to make it talk to this driver? I just need 5 hours a month, I'll compensate you. Right now, there's no compensation, and the other problem we're seeing is that when you don't compensate the open source world, the bad actors will come in and compensate them. And we've had 2 of those cases in last month where open source developers have been compromised by foreign governments that have put bugs into code that allows them to control some of our devices. So what we're trying to do with this case is we're working on some other things, but this one seemed like it needed more of a crowdsourced solution. And we don't have a solution for this, but the problem is, how do you compensate people in the open source community? How can you set up a cryptocurrency structure so that people can be compensated, so they can be retained, and you can put formal deadlines on when your software is going to expire. And Microsoft does this, right? They say Windows 10 is not going to be serviceable after this date, but in the open source world, we don't have that. So you can read through the details of the case, but we're trying to solve this problem. There's some players in this thing, John's certainly one of them, that you'd have a chance to meet and interact with. But we really need to solve this problem. I don't see any money in it for myself or anybody else, but this is a problem that we're all dependent on. And this open source world needs to grow up and needs to compensate the people who contribute to it and incentivize them to use signatures and to do other things. So that's what this case is about, and I hope you consider it. Here you go, Mary.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Conway, and thank you to all of you. So we're coming to the close of the formal part of the hackathon opening. I would like to thank the Avad team. You were awesome, everybody in there. Always appreciate the help that you give us. Thank you to our use case sponsors, the mentors who are here, Catherine Carlisle, definitely, and also to all of the students. So our All 13 use cases are now available on the Discord channel, and I believe we have opened up the team registration at this point. So for those of you watching on YouTube and for those of you in the audience, have a great night as you form your teams. Catherine will be around to answer any last-minute questions you have. Let's all give ourselves a round of applause. It's a great night. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary. Okay, you guys can break on the website. We have a button for team registration. It's also on the Discord through a QR code. I have the Discord open, so also if we have remote viewers, feel free to ask questions in the general channel, or I can also take live questions from the audience here. So does anyone just want to know more about the competition or need more clarity about what we have going on? Yes, in the back. Can we use a microphone to make sure that you are able to be heard online?
What's the final deliverables going to look like? Is it going to be a live presentation, recorded presentations? Do they have to be face-to-face to deliver it?
That's a great question. So on April 1st, that's Friday, April 1st, your deliverables will be due by 12 p.m. noon to our email. And we're going to make sure that you know that through our communications via email and Discord. It could be a slideshow between 8 to 10 minutes long. If you're over 10 minutes, you're going to run the risk of being asked to move on. But a slideshow with all the presentation criteria available on our FAQs. We have a link to our judging and presentation criteria that can tell you exactly the format of what we're looking for, what type of questions we want you to answer with your solution. So we will send all of that out, again, closer to time, and check in with you on the final week when you're building your slide decks. But that is what we are expecting in a live in-person event on April 1st at the Reynolds Center on campus. It's right behind the Walton College. And we can have one person on a team present, as many people on a team present as you like. That is completely up to you and your team. We've had teams last year win with every single person presenting, but that's not required. So just do what's best for you and your team with how you want to present your solution. There is a remote open track. So if you are unable to attend in person, we will accept a recorded version of your 8 to 10 minute presentation, and that will be judged separately on the open remote track. I hope that answered it. Okay. Any other questions? I'll check the Discord. All right. Well, if you want to come find me after, or I'm happy to answer any questions via email or Discord. If you need the Discord link, we can post that again on the website. But feel free to meet teammates, jump on the Discord. There are other people there looking for teammates, and you can ask questions to your use case presenters. But otherwise, happy hackathon. Have a great month.